Hi, everybody. It's Ryan with Pi Records, and I'm here with the Neptunas. How you doing, girls?
Great.
Awesome.
Excellent.
So,
It's so
why
nice
don't you
to, it's
introduce
so nice to join
yourself
you.
and tell us what instruments you play and what roles you have in the band as far as songwriting?
Well, I'll start. I'm Pamita Neptuna. I'm the bass player. I am the one that wrangled everyone to be in a band back, so many decades of yore. And I'm one of the people. I'm one of the singers. We kind of trade off singing duties. So I also sing leads and backups, but I'm the bass player.
Okay.
You want to tag someone, Pam?
I tag you, Laura Bethita, because you talked.
I'm Laura Bethita Neptuna. I play drums. I sing occasionally. I don't sing any songs on the record. I don't sing lead on any of the songs on the record, but if you come to see us live when we are able to do that again, you'll be in for a treat. There is a song that I sing. I'm the Mickey Dolenz of the band.
I'll see you the drummer.
Yep.
Nice. And Leslie?
Leslie? Tag.
I'm Leslita Neptuna. I play guitar in the band. I also sing some leads, some backups. That's about it.
So what I've heard from Josh at Altered State of Reverb is that you have been around quite a long time, starting in the late 90s. Tell me a little bit about what that was like starting up a surf band in, say, 98, 97-ish.
Way before that.
Before that?
Way before. Yes, we started
in
yeah. So originally I started a band called the Bomboras, which is another surf band. I started that surf band, which was boys and me. I was the only girl in the band, but I had lived in San Francisco. I was from LA. I moved up to San Francisco for a while, and I saw this band up there. So many great bands up there during that time of like Estrus Records in the early 90s, real early 90s. All of that. I mean, Estrus is Bellingham, Washington, but you know, there were the Mummies, there were the Phantom Surfers, and there was this band called the Trash Women. The Trash Women were 3 women doing surf music, and I adored them. I just loved them. I thought they were amazing. So when I came back, I moved back to LA, and I wanted to start a surf band. So I started the Bomboras, and then, but in my heart of hearts, I knew I really wanted a girl band. So even though I had this other band with these guys, I had wanted to start a girl band. So I put out but this is back pre-internet days, early 90s. So I sent out a postcard asking for girls who didn't have to know how to play instruments. They just had to have a really good wig and bikini collection, and they could join the band. And so then Leslie joined the band, and then we had a drummer, Toast, who was our original drummer, and then after a couple of years, Laura joined us as a drummer. So that's how the band started. And then I left the Bomboras. Once I got the Neptunas going, I left the Bomboras, and I just focused on the Neptunas. And yeah, that's where we started. So it was 94 when we officially started. 93 was when I started the Bomboras. 94, early 94, I started the Neptunas. So yeah, early.
That's awesome.
Yeah, early on.
So when you talk about starting in the 90s, 94, what bands were, besides the Mummies, obviously, were pretty inspirational to you?
Well, there were a lot. I mean, gosh, there were so many great bands. I can just say for me, I think everyone's going to have their influences of why they were into surf music and what bands were influential. But I mean, I think there's a lot of bands in surf music, but you know, we're also old punk rockers, you know, and you know, into post-punk and punk. So there's a lot of those kinds of bands that are influential. I mean, during that time, the Pixies were doing surf, you know, records. I mean, surf tracks. They weren't a surf band by any means, but I think they were super influential. The Breeders were influential. But then as far as like traditional surf bands in San Francisco, there were all those great bands that were up there. And when I got to LA, there were some bands that were down here, but myself personally, I didn't find a lot of like the aesthetic that I liked about the San Francisco bands, which they would dress up in outfits, they would have matching costumes, they would do, they would have a visual. So a lot of the bands down here, while they were great bands, they were just wearing like jeans and t-shirts, and you know, I liked having a visual to go along. So yeah. So, but I'm sure you guys have other influences that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, so growing up in Southern California, I grew up in a beach community that was like a surf community. So the first music I really fell in love with was surf music, and it was, I think one of the first records I had was Venture's Greatest Hits. And so I fell in love with the Ventures. I don't know if I like knew enough yet to fall in love with a pop star, but I loved the music. And then I got really into punk rock, so I got a little bit derailed from surf music as I became a teenager. But a friend of mine had this an LP that was a live at the Whiskey, and it was this band called John and the Night Riders, and I loved it. And so I bought that record, I wore it out, and then I grew up and got this tattoo. I don't know if you can see it. I see it.
Oh, nice.
And then they let me in the band eventually. So I just love surf music. And then I just, you know, I hear these stories a lot where people are a fan of a band, and just like eventually that love like funnels into them being in the band. Also, we should bookmark the songwriting part of your earlier question, because we didn't answer that, but it's worth talking about, but we don't have to do it right now. But yeah, I've always loved surf. I, like Pam said, punk rock featured a lot in our, you know, in my history, and you know, when I was young. But I ended up, you know, my roots were in surf, literally in surf, but in the world of surf, and then in surf music. And then, you know, it all came back when I fell in love with the Neptunas, and I was in a punk rock band that got to play in LA with the Neptunas quite often. And I just joined the Neptunas fan club, and I sent them little gifts, and I really just fell in love with them, and like them as like, you know, little pop stars in LA, and followed them, and then eventually the opportunity came, and there I was, the Mick Fleetwood of the band, you know. So this is history.
But you came in like Lindsey Buckingham, you know, coming into an existing band. You want to go?
Yeah, that's true. But I didn't have a Stevie Nicks attached, so you guys are my Stevie Nickses.
Leslie, you want to talk about maybe some of your influences?
Sure. I mean, I will just add on to what Laura Bethita mentioned. I remember seeing her in Ball Gagger and thinking they were just a marvelous band, and she was in our fan club. I would mail her like little Neptuna comics and things like that. And so it was a real pleasure to have her join the band. And so I guess some of my other influences are also, you know, punk rock bands. But I grew up listening to Arthur Lyman and Martin Denny, things like that. So I feel like I had that kind of exotica surf kind of sensibility in me, you know, all the time. I always wanted to be in a band. I mean, I moved from Oklahoma to California to be a part of the music scene, essentially. So I didn't know really how to go about it. I took some classes at Dick Grove School of Music in the Valley, and was, you know, concentrating on keyboards because I had played piano for like 10 years, but didn't really take up guitar till like right before the Neptunas. And so, you know, having bought a guitar, here was my chance. I heard, you know, about the ad from Toast, the original drummer. And so I was sick, but even though I was sick, I'm gonna try out for this band, and I feel like so fortunate to have gone in. But yeah, my influences just all across the board, really.
So getting back to the songwriting, do you guys collaborate? Is there a principal songwriter? How does that work for you?
Well, we all kind of bring in ideas and sort of workshop them together. So I think it's really interesting. We kind of, as time has gone on, you know, we were really active in the 90s, and we had in the 2000s, early 2000s, we, you know, had kids and other bands and things like that, and then came back together in the teens, the 20 teens. But the thing that I find that's interesting is you start to be with the band for a very long time, you start to take on, we see where our strengths are. So like for Leslita, she's like amazing at coming up with really unique parts. And then I find that a lot of times I can do arrangements for it. Like I can arrange those parts into a song. So we kind of workshop together, and then Laura adds the drums and, you know, throws in rhythm parts and things like that. So we kind of bring in sort of scraps, and then we workshop them together and turn them into songs. So there are various sort of stages when we bring them in. Nobody really brings in a fully fleshed out, completed song. We just sort of, you know, either it's just a little idea or a bigger idea, but we workshop it together because we always feel like each person adds something or a different thing. So it does completely, it's a collaborative effort, you know.
That's very interesting. So I know you have a new album out, but let's talk about some of the releases that you had previously. What did you release early on before your hiatus?
You want to go, Leslie? You were there for all of it.
Well, we had a little 45.
I think you were.
There was a 45, and it was like kind of new wavy punk rock cover that you know, I'm very fond of. For Bikini, we made a little video. We just we had a few 45s, Ask Any Mermaid, and we were on a lot of compilations, but we had two full-length CDs. The second one, while Pam was pregnant, it shows her on the cover pregnant, which is kind of interesting, you know, because we were dressed like mermaids, and so she's got her big tummy.
Ginormo belly. Yeah, so the first CD was well, all the singles that we came out with, other than being on compilations or split singles with other people, we did on the singles, and the CDs were on Sympathy for the Record Industry. Oh. And the first one was Scratch and Surf, and the second one was
Let Them Eat Tuna.
Let Them Eat Tuna. I can't remember the name of it.
I'm the biggest fan of this band, by the way, so
she'll have all the knowledge about it. So we the first album we did, and a lot, you know, we did like what I think like 3 or 4 single 45s, and then we did those 2 CDs. The first CD was with Toast. The second CD, Let Them Eat Tuna, was with Laura Betita on drums. The first one was with Toast on drums. So, but yeah, we did those with Sympathy, and then of course record labels come and go, and John sort of went into semi-retirement and wasn't really putting out things on Sympathy anymore. And so when we recorded this, we were like, where are we gonna put it out? And Josh and Altered State of Reverb came to the rescue, came and said, hey, I want to put it out. So we jumped on that opportunity. So yeah.
That's awesome. Where did you guys record it?
Leslie, do you want to answer that?
Mexico.
Did you go to?
There's a
You want to talk about
where in Mexico?
Yeah.
Oh, where in Mexico?
Here's basically how that happened. So, you know, we had you know, our lives like brought us back together as a band, and we were invited to tour with the Breeders a few years ago, and so we rose to that occasion, and we, you know, started playing together, and we got to do that tour, which was mind-blowing. I mean, the venues yeah.
Can I throw in something?
Yes.
The Breeders sent us a message. We hadn't played in any shows in like more than 15 years, I think, more than like 20, like 15. It's been a really long time, right? And they had sent us a message and said, hey, are you guys playing? If you're playing, can you open? We want you to, open for us on tour. And I was like, of course we're playing. Of course we're still together. And so then I wrangled these girls and I called them. I said, hey, can we get it together in 6 weeks to go on tour? And they were all game and they all figured it out and they all got off time off from work. And so that we could go on tour with them. So we lied to the breeders. We said that we were still playing all the time, but we got it together in 6 weeks, but it was an amazing tour. So that's why we got back together. We never really broke up. It was just that we were sort of doing other things, but this cracked the whip so that we got back together and started practicing playing and writing new songs again. So now go back to Laura Bethita.
So that tour was so much fun. We fell back in love with each other, playing together post tour. We just kept doing that. And so we started writing some songs and then, we were kind of brainstorming about where do we want to go? What would we like to do? Let's play somewhere fun because we'd been to Europe many years ago and was so much fun. And I was like, what about Mexico? I mean, it's close. It's close to Southern California. It would be fun. There's a great interest in surf music there. And we have a friend that lives in Mexico. It's an American who lives in Mexico, Daddy O'Grande from Los Straitjackets. So we reached out to him and we got to play the Waldo Fest 2017. And we had such a great time. We fell in love with everyone in Mexico who was at that festival, several thousand people, and it was an amazing experience. And Danny got really excited about us and invited us to come back and asked if he could produce a record for us. So then we went back home. And Leslie, do you want to tell the rest of the story? Like we came home.
I thought you were doing a great job.
We came home and we wrote the record. And we collaborated with Danny back and forth, sending tracks, demos, and within a matter of, I think it was like maybe 6 months or less, we went back down to Mexico and we recorded in a studio that Danny had used many times with some great engineers down there that we just had it's just like such a love fest and such a great experience. But the short answer is we recorded it in Mexico City. And the long answer is, what I just told you.
We have been friends with Danny for many, many years and had, we played with Los Straitjackets back in the 90s when we were playing at like these tiny little clubs that we would be opening for them, obviously. But, now they play these big, much, much bigger places. They're much, much bigger. But we had been friends with Danny, and Danny lived in Santa Monica. I lived in Santa Monica. So we had kept in touch all that time. And when he moved to Mexico, he was always saying, come to Mexico, you guys. There's a big surf scene down here. People are into it. Because, it's like things go in and out of fashion, And so up here, you play for 15 people, you play these little shows. And when we went down to Mexico, it was massive. It was so huge. And it was all like kids in their 20s, thousands of in their 20s, like super into surf music. Like it was like going in a time machine. It was crazy. It was amazing. So they just have a real love for instrumental music, and surf music is super huge there. And so going there was like this amazing thing. And that's when we were like, oh my God, we have to record with Danny. We have to do this. We have this amazing guy who is an amazing producer, an amazing musician in his own right, amazing songwriter in his own right. And to be able to work with our friend, we are all friends, we love each other, but to bring in someone else that we know and love was just like so fun. It was so fun to do that recording. It was the best recording experience I've ever had. Really, really great. So yeah.
So
yeah,
Mexico City is as beautiful as it seems on TV.
It's amazing. It's such a vibrant, amazing city, very young city. There feels like there's a lot of young energy and people doing art. I mean, it's just like art, music, clubs, this, that. It's a very, like, I feel like, some cities like LA have gotten so expensive that there isn't clubs. It's hard to get to clubs there, and now, with COVID, all, gosh, who knows what's going to be around a year from now. But that in Mexico City, you can use public transit or jump in a cab or walk places. We were in Roma Norte, which is like right in the center of like the heart of the arts area. So it's just beautiful and fun, and there were things to do every night. It reminded me of LA in the 80s when I was a teenager, and it was super fun, and there were many shows to go to every night, and that's how it felt there. It was super beautiful clubs and just a vibrant rockabilly scene and surf music scene, and all kinds, and punk rock, and all kinds of really fun retro things going on, as well as new stuff as well, and art, and it was just amazing. So yeah, it is beyond. It is so, I so recommend going to Mexico. You would have an amazing time. So we're able to travel again.
That particular city has caught my interest. Their architecture is amazing, and I would love to just touch the building, you know, because it's so beautiful. What I've
There's
seen.
a lot of like, there's a lot of European influence, so it doesn't look like what you might think a city in Mexico looks like. Mexico City is you just have to experience it. You'll love it, Ryan. You will love it.
Yeah, that's one of my bucket list. I want to go to Paris, Egypt, and Mexico City is like my third on my bucket list.
Well, what a coincidence, because we're recording our next record in Egypt. Just kidding. We're only recording records in countries where there are pyramids.
That's okay. I want to go back because I didn't get to see the pyramids.
I know, I should have brought that up.
I know, you brought up a sore spot. Leslie had only 2 full days of, we had 2.5 days for Leslie because she could only get that much time off from work. We had to do a show while we were down there, and we had to record her guitar and vocals, and we had 2.5 days. So she gets there one day. I think we got there and we whisked you off to do the show. You didn't record the first day. And then the second and the third day, she recorded her guitars one day and the vocal tracks the next day. And then the third day she had to fly back to LA, and she's like, but I want to go see the pyramids. And we're like, there's no time to see the pyramids. You're only here for 2.5 days. So we'll just have to go back to Mexico City. That's it. Oh, well, poor us, right?
And I think we didn't mention this, but when we played at Wildo Fest, we had a surprise guest join us on stage at the end of our set and play a song or two with us. And so as soon as we got to Mexico City the first time, we got in the car and went to a studio and rehearsed with him. And I think that was like a real highlight of playing music for me, of my musical career, was Danny Amos came out on stage and played a couple songs with us, and we got to rehearse with them a little, you know, like the day prior. But that was the beginning kind of this chapter of our relationship with him, you know. But it was really fun. It was a great treat for everyone in Mexico. I mean, everyone who was at that festival it was a great surprise. You know, we got on stage and we put on wrestling masks for that song, and I think a lot of them knew what was about to happen, and it was just a glorious moment. I have to admit, I wept. It was really
Can I share something about that people here may not realize, like people in the States don't really realize?
Oh, yes.
Okay. The Los Straitjackets and Lost Acapulco and the surf bands that Danny participates in, he's in part-time in Lost Acapulco and in Los Straitjackets, are massively huge in Mexico. They play for 150,000 people on a regular basis. They play stadiums. They fill the Zocalo, which is this giant plaza in the middle of Mexico City, and they have 100,000, 200,000 people, right? So when we had Danny come up and play with us, we're like in the middle of we're not the opening band at this festival, but we're not the headliner. We're like in the midliner, right, of this show. When we had Danny come out and play with us, it was like Jimmy Page came out and played with us. It was like this huge, amazing, super famous guy there came out and played with us. Now he's our friend, and we're just pals with him, and we know him, and we hang out with him outside of work. But it was having Jimmy Page come up and play with you. It was so, people lost their minds. They were so crazy. And the whole thing, it was so, another thing that's just a little side note. So Los Straitjackets, Danny was the one that came up with starting to wear the Lucha Libre wrestling masks and being in this band playing wrestling masks, right? He's the one that invented that. Well, now I would say 75% of instrumental and surf bands in Mexico wear wrestling masks. It's like now the thing that you have to do if you're, it's all started by him. It was all started by him. So yeah, it's like we went to a Lucha Libre event while we were there too. That was super fun. Anyway, it was like, but him coming out on stage with us was massively huge. You can't compare it to anything except for like Jimmy Page came out, or I don't know who some huge rock god came out and played with you, you know. It was amazing. And he plays as good as Jimmy Page, you know.
So before we go, because I don't want to get cut off in the middle of a sentence, I just got a warning on my computer. I'm reaching my time limit. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk about your newest album. We didn't even mention the name of the album and the concept behind it. Some of the song titles are very punk rockish, and I listened to it, and it's fantastic. And my wife, Jen, who does the promos for Pi Records, she loves it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Mermaid Go Go?
I want to just say something really quick, and I'll let you guys talk. There, you know, I realized that a lot of those songs, they're actually personal. They sound just like stories, but those are real stories. Like, you know, like the Volcanics came on your show, on your pod, and I listened to it. I love them. I adore them. They wear cardigans instead of Mexican wrestling masks. I love them. You know, there are members of that band that were in the Mighty Kegsmen, and the Mighty Kegsmen are featured in our song Sorority Stop. So like, that's not the only song that is like Mermaid Go Go, the title track, is about our fantasy life as a band that lives like the monkeys in a clubhouse, but ours is under the sea. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that when people are listening to that record, those aren't made up stories. Most of those things are real. They just are fantasy. Like, that's our life, you know? We just have a charmed life that's like, we get to write songs about. So okay, that's my part about the songs.
That's awesome.
Do you want to talk about Leslie?
Mermaid Go Go. I think Laura kind of said it there about the shack under the sea, but that is Pamita's brainchild, if you will. I mean, she came up with that lyric that has been quoted and quoted since our album was released about, you know, the mermaids are braless and the mermen are flawless. I'll let Pam talk about it because she's better at explaining how that originated, I think.
We had so much fun writing songs, and we just write about, like, I feel like, well, I mean, I can talk about Leslie's songwriting. I mean, she really comes up with these such original things, and they're so charming. I mean, these stories. So like, for example, Secret of the Sea is about, is that the one that's about, that's the one that's about your mom and dad, right, Leslie?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like when her mom and dad were first dating. She wrote a little fantasy song about, imagine, obviously she wasn't there, but you know, she was writing this song about her mom and dad dating, and how this cute little date on, you know, going for a walk on the boardwalk and having this cute beachside date. And like, I wrote Mermaid Go Go because I was like, what would be my like dream club would be like mermaids. The mermaids are braless. The mermen are flawless, and the mermaids are braless. You know, topless.
It's
mermaids,
only 5 clams to get in.
Only 5 clams to get in. And the drummer is an octopus, so you're gonna have really good drums.
8 arms.
8 arms. So it's got bands, it's got dancing, it's got topless go-go girls. I mean, what more could you want in a club, right?
So cool.
So we write songs about things that we are like, I think it's, we want to live our life in a positive way and fun and have fun in life. You know, why not have fun in life? And so there's no, you know, it's no heavy political stuff. You know, we are political people, but we're looking at like where we want things to be. versus where things are right now. So it's a
Yeah.
very happy album and an escape. Like you can go under the sea and have a cute club that you can go to and get away from it all, right?
And I want to say, I encountered Josh Graham from Altered State of Reverb, and we started a friendship, and then we decided to put this record out with him. And he's a wonderful guy. You recently interviewed him. I loved your interview with him. And that's where you can get the record. I mean, you can stream it on most streaming, services, but you can buy the actual record, which has fantastic art. On www.alteredstateofreverb.com. And Josh is a great guy. No interview about this record would be complete without mentioning him.
Yeah, it's like and I also want to say that that cover art was done by Stephanie Buscema, who's an amazing artist, and she does this very 60s style of art, the 60s illustration style, and it's so great. And so she did this beautiful artwork for us, and it just is a fun album if you want to, get a little relief from all the drama in life right now.
It's really, the artwork is beautiful. It's very, very creative. And it just, when you have artwork like that, it just enhances the record. Like you could sit down with it and just kind of study it with the music in the background, like the old days. It's that kind of.
And we're gonna do vinyl. We just haven't had a chance to do it yet. But so that art will be larger.
Yes.
Which I'm super excited about.
Nice.
And thank you to your wife for enjoying the record. That makes me really happy.
Did you see that video?
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, we did Josh sent us 5 copies of Mermaid Go Go, and on our YouTube channel we did a promo for the video. My wife did it, or for
That's awesome.
For the CD. So
I'll check it out.
Yeah, I think we did it yesterday, but I've been doing so many of these that I'm kind of like in a fog right now.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. I'm super excited about your future pods you'll do. I mean, I'm really excited. I was really excited to find it, and I found it because of Volcanics. That's how I found you.
They were
originally.
Frankie and Ben had been spreading the word, and I was really grateful because it's hard to get people to share your stuff, but they were like all about sharing it, and they were super cool guys, as well as Josh. Josh and I both worked at NBC. I still do. So
okay.
He's in Philly, or he's in DC, and I'm in Philly.
Well, you know what, Frankie, Josh, and I all have in common, and maybe you do, I don't know, is that we're all paisanos. We are all Italian Americans.
My wife is.
There you go. I knew there had to be an Italian in the mix here.
My wife, she has Sicilian and Italian.
Beautiful, beautiful. I'm all about, my mom was born in Sicily, so I'm a first-generation Sicilian American.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So before we cut this gets cut off, I want to thank you very much. And I really enjoy the music, and you guys have such a positive attitude and a very vivid memory of your experiences, which is good to hear, because it just shows how much you appreciate just doing the do, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
And that's really refreshing to know that that's the attitude behind your music, that it's just having fun.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you, girls. Have a good day.
It was fun.
Thanks, you too.